You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I am your host, Steph, and today I am going to be previewing the 49ers offense against the Miami Dolphins defense, because we do 2 preview episodes a week on this show, and our second one is due. We did the defense preview episode 2 days ago. That was on Wednesday, and today it is Friday, December 2nd, and so it is time to do our offense preview at this point in time. But before we get into that order of business, let's talk about this first. The 49ers and Dolphins injury report for Sunday's game. As we know, Elijah Mitchell, he suffered an MCL sprain last week. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. He's definitely out for this game. He hasn't been placed on IR yet. Not sure when that's going to be happening, but I would assume that would happen soon. But hasn't happened yet, so he is still on the injury report. He's listed as out. Then we have questionable Deebo Samuel dealing with a quad. We found out a little bit more about this injury today that's been, nagging Deebo this week and kept him out of practice for the most part. It's a deep quad bruise or something like that. Definitely something that Kyle Shanahan seemed to indicate has not really improved like they have wanted it to. So he is questionable for this game, and I would assume, because I'm not sure he participated much in practice, if at all, today, I would assume that he's going to be closer to a game time decision, but probably leaning on the side of being out, which sucks for Deebo Samuel, because with Christian McCaffrey, by the way, you don't see on the injury report, he's good to go, but dealing with knee irritation, as McCaffrey is, if that flares up, the 49ers are kind of in a tricky spot with their running backs right now, and you don't have Deebo Samuel to play that wide back role. So I feel like the 49ers are going to, be cautious about Deebo and have him out of this game, but we really won't know until Sunday. So let's look at some of these other names here. What's going on, Mariah? Thank you for joining. Spencer Burford, who suffered an ankle injury in last week's game. I don't know if we got much information about this one today that would make me think that he might be able to play. I know there's a chance he is questionable, but remember, there is no game time decision designation anymore in the injury report. So it's either you're out or you're questionable or doubtful. But yeah, questionable doesn't really give us the full picture, I feel like. So we'll have to on Sunday for Spencer Burford's availability as well. And Trent Williams landed on the injury report as questionable because he was dealing with back spasms today. Those kept him out of practice today, but no need to worry. Kyle Shanahan said that he should be good to go for Sunday, and it seems like that was more of a precaution to keep him out of practice today. So, thank God, because I don't think this team could afford to be without both Spencer Burford potentially and Trent Williams. That would be a huge blow, arguably 2 of the best offensive linemen on the team right now. Charles Omenihu, he is also questionable with, earlier in the week, they had said he was dealing with knee irritation, same thing that Christian McCaffrey's dealing with. But of course, as mentioned, Christian McCaffrey is not on the final injury report. Charles Omenihu, however, is. So he is questionable. And I don't think we heard extra information about that today. So gonna have to wait till Sunday to find out if Burford and Deebo and Omenihu play. But remember, Deebo, I feel like, is leaning towards the side of probably not playing, just because you want to be safe with him. If, his quad injury is not improving, you definitely don't want to put him out there and, risk furthering that injury or worsening that injury. So I think it'd be safe for the 49ers to keep him out, especially with the playoffs on the horizon. Now, for the Dolphins, let's talk about their injury report. They have their right tackle, their starting right tackle, Austin Jackson, out with an ankle injury in this game. Also, Terron Armstead, who, They had said earlier in the week he was going to try to play. He has a torn pec, by the way, but Mike McDaniel said he was going to, or Armstead was going to try to play. He is doubtful for this one, so I think that tells you he will most likely be out. So both the Dolphins tackles, right tackle and left tackle, are going to be out for this game. That could be huge in this one. We'll talk about that. Well, I guess we talked about that a little bit on Wednesday episode. So if you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you tune into that after this. I pretty much just set the stage for the defense and what to expect. The 49ers defense, that is. And then questionable is their running back, Myles Gaskin, and their backup quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater. So, yeah, let's get right into this preview, shall we? All right, so let's look at this second slide here. So, I always like to get some stats together of the unit we're talking about. And today, that is the Dolphins defense. So let's look at some of these. And I just wanted to point out, so I looked at a ton of different defensive rankings to put this list here together. I did not find the Dolphins ranked better than 10th once. Okay, they're ranked 10th in rushing yards allowed per game, and that's pretty much I think the best thing I saw about their defense. And that one, the allowing just 109.5 rushing yards a game, which is 10th, and that's pretty good, but that could be attributed to teams having to play catch up and needing to pass the ball. They're not going to, run as much against the Dolphins and this offense. So that's probably more of an indication of why they're 10th in rushing yards allowed per game more than anything else. But if I had to describe the Dolphins defense in one word, it would simply be mid. It would be mid. I mean, look at all these rankings here. 17th in average rushing yards per carry. So they're allowing 4.5 rushing yards per carry, which is pretty good. 17th in total yards allowed per game. 19th in points allowed per game. They're allowing 23.3 points a game. 20th in sack percentage. 21st in passing touchdowns allowed per game. 22nd in passing yards allowed per game. 24th in third down conversion percentage allowed. 24th in interceptions per game. 25th in touchdowns allowed per game. They average 2.8 touchdowns allowed per game to opposing offenses. 26th in completion percentage allowed. 29th in red zone scoring percentage. Now, this red zone scoring percentage, that's counting just touchdowns. They allow 65% of all trips to the red zone to result in touchdowns. Basically, what that means. So they're not great by any means. And so this is why I think the 49ers have a great opportunity here. Looking at some of these stats, 49ers offense is not as bad as people, like fans themselves, think it is. I think there's a lot of critique about the 49ers offense just because we know that they can do more, but they're not as bad as like one might think based on all these, all this critique that you see of the 49ers offense. They're just probably not playing to the best of their ability given the talent that they have, but they're still, they're not slacking off. Okay. So I feel good about the matchup, but we'll talk about that more in a bit. Let's look at the battle of the trenches. Okay. Look, you might be concerned about Trent Williams, okay? But as I said a little bit ago, he should be good to go from what Kyle Shanahan said. So he was dealing with back spasms. It's not anything too serious. They're just being cautious with him. So he's going to be good to go for Sunday. Don't worry about it. But here, looking at the Dolphins' defensive line, it's so odd to me because their defensive line, on paper, isn't bad. Like Melvin Ingram, Bradley Chubb are two very good pass rushers. Also, Miami's entire defensive line isn't terrible according to PFF, which again, PFF is not the end all be all, but um, in most cases, it is a good indicator. And it's just not translating to production very much, so it's not so much that the defensive line is bad on paper, but they're just not getting the production you would hope. At least the Dolphins, I'm sure, would hope. They blitz 29% of the time, okay, which is somewhat high. But they are 19th in QB hits, 23rd in pressure rate, 20th in sack rate, and they allowed the 6th highest passer rating. So I don't know, man. Like I said, they seem fine on paper, but it's just not translating to production. Because once again, they are mid in these categories. They're average or just slightly below average in these categories, which, when the 49ers play teams of this caliber, when they play defenses, I should say, in this caliber, in this tier, they often have their way with them. And so I think this is going to be a good game for Jimmy. Like, he should have some time to throw in this game, just given the fact that 23rd in pressure rate, 20th in sack rate. I mean, he should have time to throw. He should be comfortable. So I feel good about the matchups here. The 49ers offensive line going against the Dolphins defensive line. But before we go into Jimmy here, let's talk about who he'll be throwing to. All right. Let's talk about George Kittle first, okay? Now, I always like to get the positional breakdown here. So we're looking at Miami's defense. How do they normally do against tight ends? Well, they allow an average of 8 targets per game, 6.3 receptions per game, and 60 yards per game. And that's an average. And they've also allowed 7 touchdowns this season to tight ends. I posted a tweet yesterday. I don't think I have it in my notes here, but the Dolphins have allowed 17 touchdowns this season. 14 of them have been through the air. 7 have been against tight ends. 7 of the other ones have been against wide receivers. So, in most, there's going to be more wide receivers on the field than tight ends. So that tells you that they're giving a lot of production to opposing tight ends. So to me, this kind of looks like could potentially be a George Kittle game. I don't know about you guys, but I like this matchup for George Kittle and this offense, because George Kittle is very volatile in this offense, and just because there's so many mouths to feed for the most part, sometimes he gets a lot of attention. But I feel like, just given how Miami defends against tight ends, this could be a good game for him. I'm going to predict that we see a touchdown from George Kittle in this game. Now, my brother here, what's going on? My brother Fabio, he says time of possession will be critical on Sunday. Niners will have to be able to successfully run the ball. The time of possession thing is huge. I mean, and that's one of my keys to this game that I'll mention later. But yeah, time of possession, being able to not only hold on to the football for long periods of time to keep your defense fresh and to keep the Dolphins offense off of the field, you also have to score points when you have these long drives, right? Or it's for nothing. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about the 49ers needing to run the football, because I feel like that might go out the window if the Dolphins get scoring early. But I mean, the Dolphins offense pretty well. Yeah, there might be some room for the 49ers to be able to run the football. Fabio also said, can we get the Azteca Stadium Kittle on Sunday? Yes, I would love that. Cero miedo, right? So hopefully he gets a touchdown like he did against the Cardinals. RJ says, I need touchdowns in the red zone, no damn field goals. Yes, absolutely. And just really quickly, let me go back to the slide really quick. And you see here, let me see. Let me drop this really quick. The Dolphins are 29th in red zone scoring percentage allowed to opposing offenses. So by that metric, they're 29th, right? The 49ers just need to get to the red zone, and they're 65% likely to score a touchdown. So I like those odds right there for the 49ers. And just, another reason that I feel like the Dolphins defense in this matchup is an equalizer. I know we're worried about the Dolphins offense going crazy potentially, and I'm not even sure that will happen just because of, I have a lot of confidence in the 49ers defense. But should that happen, I feel good about the Dolphins defense allowing the 49ers to pretty much just do what they want, because of some of these rankings here, would indicate that, they're not a great defense. This is the equalizer, in my opinion. Let's see. Now let's talk about the wide receivers. All right. Now I have always talked about, I've talked up Brandon Ayuk. I think he could beat anybody, especially in the red zone. He's amazing in the red zone. And I think Ayuk can go over 100 yards in this one. What do you guys think? Let me know what you think in the comments. I mean, are you feeling over under that Ayuk can go 100 yards? Because I think he could go over, just because he's that good of a player. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be comfortable. Kyle Shanahan should be able to get these guys open. And also because Deebo Samuel may not play in this one. So that's the one thing. And seeing here, the Dolphins defense are allowing an average of 152 total yards to opposing wide receiver units. So that is all of the opposing team's wide receivers. They're allowing an average of 152 total yards per game. And as I mentioned, they allowed 7 touchdowns to wide receivers this season. And, oh yeah, here's a note I had before. Of the 17 touchdowns the Dolphins defense have allowed this season, 14 of them have been through the air. So the 49ers should be able to throw quite comfortably and often in this game. It would be great to be able to run the football here and there too, but I feel like the 49ers are just going to go out and sling it, almost like a few years ago when they played against the Saints, and that was that back and forth game, and they went toe to toe with the Saints in that one, which ended in the infamous George Kittle fourth down conversion. But yeah, I feel like we could see a similar game potentially in this one, just because both of these offenses are just so potent. All right. What's going on, Ty? Glad you can make it. Guys, make sure you like this video if you have not yet. I appreciate it. It's Friday. We're feeling good. We're off of work. Give us a like. Appreciate it. Ty says a proper question is, can the Dolphins' bad defense stop the 49ers' offense? I like the way you're thinking. And if I had to answer that question, I know it might be a rhetorical question, but if I had to answer it right now, I'm saying no. The Dolphins defense cannot stop the 49ers offense. The question is, will that be enough to win the game, right? Will the 49ers still be able to score enough points will they score more points than the Dolphins offense? Pretty much, right? Because that's pretty much what it's going to come down to. And yeah, I feel good about the 49ers being able to score points. But the defense is going to have to do their part too, but I feel confident about that as well. RJ says, sorry if you mentioned this earlier. Will the rain affect the passing game? If the rain is light, then I expect a big game from Ayuk. Good point. I have not mentioned this yet. And the reason for that is because I've seen the forecast change quite a bit. And so I'm not quite sure if it will make an impact or if it'll even rain at all. So I'm seeing 90% chance of rain for Saturday, but I don't see any chance of rain for Sunday. But I know everyone's forecast. Like, you guys have a forecast app. I'm doing it through the Apple weather app. It's saying no rain for Sunday. I don't know what your guys' apps are saying, and if it does rain, RJ, I would assume that it's not going to be enough rain to impact the game. So, to your point, I think it could be a big game for Ayuk. And, as I was saying, he can beat anyone. And I think the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be comfortable, he's going to be throwing the football. And if Deebo Samuel is going to be out, that just opens things up. Well, it doesn't open things up, but it'll give Ayuk probably a higher number of targets in this game. But let's talk about Deebo really quickly because, of course, we don't know for sure if he's going to play in this game. Let's talk really quickly, assuming that he does play. And I'm wondering, will he have a larger wide back role? Because Elijah Mitchell is out. We talked about Christian McCaffrey. He's dealing with knee irritation. McCaffrey is going to play, but if, the 49ers want to lower the load on McCaffrey, which I feel like they've already done a pretty good job of doing that. He was pretty much splitting time with Elijah Mitchell, almost 50-50. Do they want to continue doing that? Would Deebo have a bigger role as a wide back? I could picture that being the case. Now, do we see him play at all? I'm mentally preparing for Deebo Samuel to not play in this game. So with that being said, and I'm totally okay with that, by the way, because I think it's okay to exercise some caution and not force him out there if he isn't 100%. I don't want Deebo, getting worsening his injury and then possibly not having him for this final stretch here for the playoffs, So if he needs to be out, have him be out. All right. So, but I'm curious what you guys think. Would Deebo see a higher amount of carries if he were to play in this game? So Joey says Google says there's a 40% chance of rain around 11 a.m. So, and if I'm not mistaken, the game is scheduled for like 1, right? It's like a little after 1. So I feel like 40% chance of rain around 11 shouldn't make a big deal. I know they'll have the tarp on the field for as long as they can. Probably all of Saturday, they'll have the tarp on the field to make sure it stays dry as long as possible. But yeah, 40% chance of rain. I'm not too worried about it. Not even bringing a rain jacket to the game. So let's see. Yeah. Ty says we come out swinging on offense for sure. Fabio says throw out all the stats. I'm a bit worried that McDaniel knows this offensive playbook. Yes. So that is definitely a fair fear, because should the Dolphins defense come out and just stop the 49ers offense, it would be because of this, right? Because McDaniels knows this offense so well, like the back of his hand. But, if Kyle Shanahan is this great play caller, like, we think he is, I would imagine that he's thought of new wrinkles. He's always thinking of new wrinkles for this offense. And the one thing that I think it would be wise for Kyle to do in preparing for this game, and just any game, because every team has film on this Kyle Shanahan offense at this point, and some of the things that they do often, other teams kind of know that already. But especially Mike McDaniel, who helped create some of these plays with Kyle Shanahan, would know that even better. But, the thing with the 49ers, yes, conceptually, it's going to be a lot of the same stuff, but they run different. They can have the same, lineup. Everyone's lined up the same way. It looks like it's one play, and it could be going to another player this time than it did last week. So there's a lot of wrinkles, and Kyle Shanahan is always working in new wrinkles into his playbook. And so now would be the time to kind of start showing some of those things, those new wrinkles that maybe McDaniels doesn't know about. And so, yeah, there's some worry about that for sure. But is that really going to be enough for the Miami defense, who by all accounts seems inferior? Like they're pretty average, they're below average. If they know the playbook, is that going to help them? Like I don't know how much that will help them. So it's a good concern. It's a valid concern, but I'm not too worried about it because Kyle Shanahan has played against his former assistants before. That hasn't been an issue in the past. So I'm not expecting that to be too much of an issue in this game. Ty says Jimmy G's short passing game is perfect for the rain. Yeah, I mean, that's true. That is true. Yeah, Ty says the 49ers know McDaniel's playbook also, and we have the better defensive players. That's a good point, Ty. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of just like a wash, right? Like if both sides knows each other's playbooks and knows what the other kind of their tendencies of thinking, then I think it's kind of a wash in this game. It's really comes down to how do you coach like and call plays sequentially. I think that will end up being the difference in this game. Yes, Ty, I am going to the game. I'm actually going with my brother Fabio, who's in the comments right now. So we'll be in the building. And we were just talking yesterday that we have a great record going to games together. I think we said we're 10-1 or 9-1 going to games together. So really the only loss that we saw like going to a game together was the NFC Championship game last season. So we have a good record. So I feel good about us being there, giving the team some juju, some good juju. And hopefully the 49ers get this win. But, I do know it's a tough matchup too. So, but all right, we talked about Debo. So, like, if he's out, we could see a large role for Ray McCloud. We maybe see some Danny Gray as well. But this might actually work out. I mean, because the 49ers, they do like to take some deep shots whenever McCloud is in or Danny Gray is in. The Dolphins are a team that you would like to make those splash plays against. The issue with that, though, is that to this point, Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't been able to hit any of those. His accuracy downfield has not been the best, right? So if they could get any of those deep balls to hit at least once this season, at least once, that's all I ask, just once, this would be the game to do it against the Dolphins because for sure they're going to try to take a few deep shots with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So, Jimmy, if you have one in you, just one deep, accurate pass, do it this Sunday. Throw it to McCloud. Throw it to Danny Gray. Ayuk, Kittle. I don't care. I don't care. Even McCaffrey on a wheel route. Can you hit that at least? I don't know. Hopefully we see one of those. But speaking of McCaffrey, let's move on to the running backs really quickly. So, first, let's talk about McCaffrey. He said he feels great earlier this week, which is a great sign. So he's going to play. He was not on the injury report, on the final injury report, dealing with knee irritation. The only thing I'd be somewhat concerned with McCaffrey is it potentially flaring up. He could feel great in practice, but unfortunately, like, practice doesn't give you the same. It's not the same as playing in a game and, playing, being on the field for several plays in a row and running on your knee and, things like that. So I'm worried about it potentially flaring up, and especially because Elijah Mitchell is out, that could be an issue. But I'm just going to put that in the back of my mind, pretend it's not a thing. and hopefully McCaffrey does feel great in the game as well, and that irritation is not an issue on Sunday. In any case, I would expect the 49ers to exercise some caution with him, even if he'll be active. He will be active, but we may see some more of the other running backs because, of course, Elijah Mitchell is out. So that's where the question mark is, right? Do we see Jordan Mason? Do we see TDP? Or do we see Tevin Coleman? Tevin Coleman earlier in the season was kind of that guy who played a lot of snaps for this team, and it was kind of a head scratcher. I know a lot of people wanted to see Jordan Mason at that time. We finally got to see Jordan Mason at the end of these last 2 games, and he looked great last week, finishing out that game, 5 carries, 25 yards, 5 yards per carry average. And Jimmy Garoppolo, speaking about Jordan Mason earlier this week, he said he makes it tough on defenses, and I think those are body blows that wear on you in the fourth quarter. So it'll be interesting to see a full game with him. Now, this quote here by Jimmy kind of tells you where the team is at on which one of these running backs is going to have the Elijah Mitchell snaps, right? He said it'll be interesting to see a full game with him. So I would assume that Jordan Mason is going to be that guy who plays a majority of the Elijah Mitchell snaps. Now, Christian McCaffrey snaps, I think, are safe, obviously, unless they dial him back a little bit due to the knee irritation. I'm sure we see some TDP as well. And I don't know if Tevin Coleman's going to be active. I think Tevin Coleman is on, I believe he's on the practice squad. So they would have to activate him for the game. That would happen on Saturday. So if he is brought up, which I assume he will just for depth, he might get a snap or 2 as well. But I'd expect Jordan Mason gets the bulk of the Elijah Mitchell carries. And I think this is a great game to deploy him because Mike McDaniel knows Tevin Coleman too. You know, he doesn't know Christian McCaffrey in this offense. He doesn't know Jordan Mason in this offense, and he doesn't know TDP in this offense. So I think all of those guys give you something a little different. Like they all kind of have their own style, their running style. And I like Jordan Mason because for the reason that Jimmy Garoppolo said here, he gives those body blows. I mean, you saw at the end of that game against the Saints, they were expecting it too. They were loading the box, and he was getting yards after contact because that's just the kind of runner he is. He loves the contact, and he continues to work through it and continues to move his legs to get extra yardage. And I think against this defense, this Dolphins defense, which someone said interesting enough on Twitter earlier in the week, that the Dolphins defense is soft. And I haven't watched a lot of Dolphins games. Haven't watched their defense a whole lot. But if that were the case, if they are soft, Jordan Mason is the perfect running back to go against them because I don't know if they have the ability to stop someone like Jordan Mason. So, yeah, if the 49ers want to run the football, I think with Christian McCaffrey and Mason, they'd have a good thing going. So I'm excited to see Mason once again. And I'm happy that he's going to get this opportunity. We're, as fans, we've been waiting for this for quite a while. All right. Ty says TDP and Jordan Mason pounding the rock. Smash mouth football. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. And again, I don't know if the Dolphins can handle that brand of football. I don't think their defense can handle that brand of football. So I like it. TDP, Jordan Mason, Christian McCaffrey. It sounds good. Fabio asked, does anyone else wish the 49ers didn't trade away running back Jeff Wilson, who, by the way, is now on the Dolphins? Yes, there are a lot of fans who wish that he hadn't been traded away. But you know what? I'm fine with it. I was fine with the trade when it happened. It made sense to me. It was a win-win-win, I think, for all sides. You know, Jeff Wilson had asked to be traded. The 49ers had to either trade or waive, so give up one of their running backs for free, basically, after the Christian McCaffrey trade. So Jeff Wilson volunteered as tribute pretty much to be that guy, and the 49ers actually got something in return. So it was a win for the 49ers. It was a win for Jeff Wilson, who wanted to be traded away because he wanted to have a role on a team. Good for him. And it was a win for the Dolphins, too, because, they had Raheem Mostert. Mostert, as we know, works through injuries, too. He gets banged up here and there. He didn't play last week. Raheem Mostert didn't. But they had Jeff Wilson Jr., so I think it worked out for them as well. It worked out for all parties. So I think we're just thinking that Jeff Wilson was going to be that guy right now. But how do we know Jordan Mason is not going to be that guy? And how do we know Jordan Mason is not going, or TDP is going to be someone who we're excited about and is going to be very efficient in the Elijah Mitchell snaps? We don't. I mean, we just got to see it and hope that they will be those guys. But yeah, I'm okay with the trade. I'm okay. All right, let's see. Let's talk about Jimmy Garoppolo now. All right. And the Dolphins defense, well, before I show this, so, all right. Jimmy Garoppolo. The Dolphins defense is allowing opposing quarterbacks to throw an average of 248 yards a game, 1.5 touchdowns. That's the average that they're allowing. They've gotten just 6 interceptions this season, okay? The Dolphins defense this season. 6 interceptions. 3 were to Kenny Pickett, rookie. 2 were to Kyle Allen last week against the Texans, or Kyle Allen as the Texans quarterback. That was his first week as the Texans quarterback, by the way. He had 2 interceptions. And then 1 in week 1, that was Mac Jones. So they've only intercepted these 3 quarterbacks: Kenny Pickett, Kyle Allen, and Mac Jones. Look, I'm not a Jimmy Garoppolo apologist. I don't have him as my top 5 all time, but I think he's better than Pickett, Kyle Allen, and Mac Jones. I think he's gonna be okay. And I don't know if, okay, I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to say that he's not going to throw an interception, but I like the stat that they've only had 6 interceptions this season, and that it's only been these quarterbacks, because I think that bodes well for Jimmy Garoppolo, and it tells you a lot about the Dolphins defense. All right. And Jimmy, as we know, he's been efficient. He and the offense did have a tougher go last week against the Saints defense. I warned you guys if you tuned in to my preview episodes. I told you the Dolphins defense was going to be tough. But I'm not worried about them taking a step back last week, okay? I truly do not feel that that's going to be an issue for this week. I don't think they regressed. I think they'll be able to rebound in a major way against the Dolphins. The Dolphins allow an average passer rating of 96.3 and a completion percentage of 67.8. That is the 7th worst in the NFL. All right. So Jimmy Garoppolo's throwing success as of late should continue. And I think there's going to be some pressure to score and score quickly if the Dolphins, score quickly and go up early. But as we were talking about earlier, I think the slow death kind of drives, the ones where you can take 5 to 10 minutes off the clock and score at the end, is going to be the key for this offense. And it's going to be very valuable for both sides of the ball if they want to win this game. It'll be really important for the 49ers run game to be able to complement the pass to get those kinds of drives going. But the run efficiency lately for this 49ers team just hasn't been there for whatever reason. So it might be another game where we see Jimmy throw the ball 30 plus times. But if that's the case, I still feel good. It's not the perfect scenario, but like I said, just based on everything I've seen, all the rankings of the Dolphins defense, Jimmy should be able to throw the ball 30 plus times and have success with it, right? Whew, let me get a drink of water, guys. And while I do this, make sure you like this video. Okay, let me pull up the slide really quick. So Next Gen Stats, they posted these heat maps of both Jimmy Garoppolo and Tua Tagovailoa. Oh my God, why can't I say his name right now? Tua, Jimmy and Tua's targets relative to the field. And for the audio listeners who can't see what I'm sharing here, let me just describe what we're seeing. So we see that the intermediate, specifically the intermediate middle third of the field, as Next Gen refers to it, is very hot. It's very red, meaning that both quarterbacks throw to that area the most. And so this tweet reads, Tua Tagovailoa, there I said it, has thrown 38 completions targeting the intermediate middle third of the field this season. 16 more than any other quarterback. So that's his sweet spot right there. That's where he likes to throw. That's where he's comfortable. That's where his receivers are targeted the most. In 2021, under Mike McDaniel, Jimmy Garoppolo led the NFL with 45 completions targeting the same area of the field. So both quarterbacks pretty comfortable with this area, and it's where they like to do most of their work. Mike McDaniel likes his quarterbacks to work in this area, and that's where he probably has his main reads in the progression to go for his quarterback. And so why is this important? Well, because the 49ers defense are one of the best at defending that area of the field. As you see, for the video viewers here, you guys see this tweet on the right side. For the audio listeners, I'll read it. Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel returns to San Francisco on Sunday, facing a defense designed to erase the intermediate middle third. Since drafting Fred Warner in 2018, the 49ers have allowed just 71 completions in that area, 15 fewer than any other defense. Holy hell, like since 2018, we're in 2022. They've allowed just 71 completions in that area. Like that's insane. So basically it's going to be one of those, what's that saying? Is it the rubber meets the road? Is that the saying? Like, I just feel like something's got to give, right? We know how good the Dolphins offense has been, and we know how good the 49ers defense is and how good they're playing. And everything that the Dolphins like to do, okay, not everything, but a lot of the things that they like to do and where they've had the most success, where Tua has had the most success, are the things that the 49ers defense are best at stopping. So, and add the fact that both of the Dolphins both the left tackle and the right tackle are going to be out in this game. So Tua, who has been averaging a time of release of 2.6 seconds this season, something's got to give there too, right? If both of his tackles are going to be out, I feel like there's a chance that the 49ers defense are going to be able to get home in this game before he's able to get the ball out, especially if with 49ers defense playing as they have been and defending the area he likes to throw in so well. So something's got to give. I found these heat maps and these stats fascinating because I think it could tell us how this game could potentially go. Now, let's see. Let's get some comments really quick. Fabio says third downs need to be completed to keep those drives going. Key of the game. All right, that's one of Fabio's keys of the game. Third downs need to be completed. And he says solid preview. Thank you. He said, big reason why Warner and the Niners always shut down the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Although Rodgers can operate from anywhere really on the field, but it definitely, the fact that the defense defends so well on the back end, the secondary, they do their job. It makes things harder on the quarterback to find anyone to throw to. You take more time in the pocket. next thing you know, you're sacked. So yeah, I feel like that could potentially happen in this game. Fabio also says, if the intermediate middle is eliminated, should we fear the cheetah on the deep ball? I do expect that the Dolphins will probably try to get some play action going. They'll probably run some screens. I'm sure we'll see Tyreek Hill on some screens, try to get him out in space, and that might work. Could work. And the deep ball, I expect that. Do they have the time for the deep ball? Well, when Tyreek Hill is your wide receiver, you don't need as much time because he's so freaking fast. But there's a potential of that. And like I said, I think we see the Dolphins attempt a few deep passes in this game. But I feel good about the defense being able to defend it. If you guys watched my preview episode for the defense on Wednesday, my only concern is Diamador Lenore because Mooney Ward is so good. Diamador Lenore gets picked on a little bit more, and he's the vulnerable one. He's the one who would be susceptible to, giving up a big play against these two very good receivers. And so that's what I'm worried about. But the 49ers did also sign Janoris Jenkins, and as someone brought up a good point that maybe they signed him for the playoff stretch just in case Diamador Lenore does, kind of falls apart here towards the end. This is a big game for Lenore to potentially either, it'll be an either confidence builder or it could all come crumbling down for Lenore. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, the Dolphins, of course, are going to try some deep balls. What's going on? Glad you can make it. Make sure you guys like this video, by the way. And look, next slide here. I thought this was fascinating as well. This tweet by a friend of the pod, Leo. He said, here, let me read it for you. Kyle Shanahan versus former assistants with Jimmy Garoppolo as a starting quarterback, including playoffs. Against McVay, he's 8-1. Against LaFleur, he's 3-1. Now, McDaniel, that's the big question, right? So obviously, we know that this is the biggest storyline of the week is Kyle Shanahan, the teacher, going against Mike McDaniel, the student. And, I only say that because it's the same, like the teacher versus student, but it's probably an insult to call McDaniel a student because I feel like he's been Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man for as long as he's coached. Mike McDaniel is literally the only coach that Kyle Shanahan took with him at every stop. So he made it a point to bring Mike McDaniel with him, and they're pretty inseparable. And so I think that tells you just how much Kyle Shanahan, respects Mike McDaniel and, his creativity, what he's able to do. Also, all the responsibility that he gave McDaniel with this offense. I think it tells you a lot about, how he feels about him, how highly he thinks of his intelligence and his ability to, create plays and things like that. So I think McDaniel is a different beast, right? Like I feel like, yeah, McVay and LaFleur, they're good, they're great, but I think McDaniel is, I think, on a higher tier than those guys, just because Kyle Shanahan taking him everywhere with him would seem to indicate that he thinks very highly of him. So he's more of a, I wouldn't call him a student of Kyle Shanahan. I'd more so maybe call him a colleague, or like just a step, just side step below. But look, I thought this record here is fascinating because obviously Kyle Shanahan has had a lot of success against his former assistants, and so Fabio giving up or bringing up the point that are we worried about McDaniel knowing so much about this offense that it could potentially make things harder for the 49ers offense because McDaniel's going to tell his defense everything he knows about the 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan, and it's going to be a lot, right? But, the McVay, LaFleur also knew a lot about, the schemes that Kyle Shanahan runs. Maybe not so much about every detail of every play, but you see the record speaks for itself, I think. And so I don't think it's as big of a deal as we think. Now, I believe that's my last slide. But let me end it here. My keys of the game for the offense. They have to sustain long drives, all right? And not just sustain long drives, because that's great. I mean, but if you don't score at the end, it doesn't matter. And I'm not talking about field goals. Field goals won't cut it against this team. You can't assume that it will. I don't care what the defense is doing on the other side. The Dolphins are one of the worst teams in red zone scoring percentage allowed. You have to be able to score points. If you get to the red zone, I'm expecting a touchdown. If you want to be taken seriously as an offense, as a playoff team, score touchdowns in the red zone. So sustain long drives, score touchdowns. Play mistake-free football. That one's like a given. Like every game, you got to be able to do that. But this game especially, because the margin of error is going to be very, very slim, okay? So play mistake-free football. No penalties or barely any penalties, okay? If you're going to do penalties, don't do them in very key moments of the game that could cost you, and don't turn the ball over. Also, don't get too cute. Don't overthink it. One of my somewhat gripes with Kyle Shanahan, and this is just my speculation, is that when he coaches against really good coaches like Andy Reid, or I don't know, I'm trying to think of another really good coach, but I feel like there's times where I feel like he tries to, like if you're playing a game of chess, he tries to play a step ahead and he takes his own team out of what they do best. Like he adjusts before he even needs to, kind of. And so I would just say, don't panic, don't overthink it, play your brand of football, don't get too cute. There's no need for that. This offense is good enough in its own right, and they should be able to score points regardless against this Miami defense. So sustain long drives, score touchdowns, play mistake-free football, and don't get too cute. And if you guys missed my episode on Wednesday, when I previewed the 49ers defense, my keys for the defense was cover wide receivers off of the snap, because the Dolphins are going to try to get the ball out quickly. So give your defensive line some time to create some pressure. All right. So cover wide receivers off the snap, bend, don't break, because I think the Dolphins are going to have some success, but you have to make sure that if you have a bad drive, just make sure you don't allow the touchdown, right? I mean, I feel like the 49ers defense did a great job at that last week against the Saints. This is a much tougher task, so bend, don't break. And also, adjust. DeMeco Ryans one of the best defensive coordinators in the league right now when it comes to making adjustments. And so I think there are going to be several of them throughout this game. And I'm excited about it. I think he's going to do a great job because, one, he should kind of know what's coming just based on the type of coach that Mike McDaniel is. Don't forget, DeMeco Ryans knows Mike McDaniel and has coached around him for a year as well. Or a few years now, if you count his time before he was defensive coordinator. So, I mean, they know each other pretty well. I think that bodes well. And so I think DeMeco Ryans is going to have some adjustments in his back pocket to, bring out should anything go awry. And so I feel good about this matchup for both sides, really, but especially the offense. The offense should be able to rebound. They should be able to score more than 13 points. If they don't, I riot. You guys should join me. And yeah, no, I feel good about the offense being able to score points against this Miami defense. That's going to be the equalizer in this game. I think the 49ers have a real chance to win this one. It's going to be a hell of a matchup, and I cannot wait. All right. Niner Fanatic says our defense also has the advantage of always going against this offense in practice. Yeah, I mean, they do. both sides, both teams are going to be very familiar with each other, and so it's really going to be about who coaches better that day. That'll tell us a lot. He says, run Jordan Mason at least 15 times. Whew. Man, I don't know if the Dolphins defense could handle Jordan Mason, so I like that plan. Run Mason at least 15 times. Look, I'm done with the preview portion of the episode, but if you guys like to stay and stick around for a little bit longer, let me just show you guys really quickly what my brother sent to me today. You guys will notice some things are different in the background here. So let me show you some of the things he sent over. He was like, you got to get rid of the hats over here. They're not doing it for me. Let me send you some stuff. And so he sent me, let's see, this Jerry Rice signed football. All right, you see it? The Sharpie's even smearing. That's how legit this is. He gave me this replica Super Bowl trophy. So I got that in the back. It looks real nice. You'll see the let's see, can you guys still see me? Yeah. All right, so let's see this. He gave me this. So where the hats used to be over here, he gave me this banner, and it has a bunch of pins on it. You can see some of the pins. Really, really awesome pins. And last but not least is the Nick Bosa signed jersey. And that is really awesome. By the way, new Nick Bosa impersonation video up on my Twitter and TikTok. Go ahead, check that out. But yeah, I mean, props to my brother for sending that stuff. He did not have to do that, but I guess, you know, he felt like being generous and lending me. He made it clear that this was a loan. He's just lending me these things. It's not mine forever, but I'm very grateful because those are some really dope items. I think this just looks great now. And by the way, he also gave me this clock a few months ago, this Joe Montana clock. So it's just the background is just, it's coming together. Okay. So yeah, thanks guys for tuning in to this episode. Make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you guys subscribe if you have not yet. I am eligible for monetization, so thank you so much for helping me reach that goal. And I appreciate it. Giveaway for that coming real soon, and it might or may not be Nick Bosa related. So make sure you stay tuned in to find out what the giveaway item is going to be. All right. But make sure you guys have a good rest of your night and go Niners. Peace.